Daniel, you lived here in Brownsville since you were 6, 7 years old.
Well, I was here for that age for a couple of years, and we relocated to Orlando, Florida, back in the booming days.
Wow! And when was that? What year do you remember?
I want to say sometime around 67, maybe, something like that.
So, but why did you leave the thriving metropolis of Brownsville for Orlando?
Absolutely. Well, we had lived in Florida before,
Uh-huh.
and then my dad got sick, and then he passed away. So we moved down here to Brownsville for the funeral, and then we ended up staying here. And my mother bought a house and stayed here for about a year. And just too much outside influence from the family, and she wanted to get back to Orlando. It was, again, really thriving then. And she
Still is.
Yeah, still is.
Still is thriving.
Yeah, she opened up a Mexican restaurant there called the El Sarape. And
And they're in Orlando.
they're in Orlando on Colonial Drive, Highway 50.
Wow.
Right in the heart.
What was you have any idea what the population of Orlando was then? I mean, today it's probably at least over 500,000, but
I don't know what the population
but it was
was
small,
there.
I bet.
It was small.
Yeah.
Had a lot of orange groves around there.
I bet it did.
Nothing but orange groves.
And this was before Disney World came
Before
in.
Disney came in. That's right.
And do you remember that when they
Yeah,
came
absolutely. I was in the grand opening parade for Disney, playing the drums.
in? Oh, is that right?
And, and I performed there probably 12 or 15 times in parades.
Wow.
It was pretty cool.
They're on what do they call that street in front of the Magic Mountain or whatever?
Main Street.
Main Street. It's just Main Street, right?
Yeah.
I took my kids there about, I don't know, 10 years ago, I guess it was now. And they were little, and I felt like I needed to give them that experience, although I personally dreaded going because of the crowds.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And the heat and the long lines of standing in line for 2 hours for a 30-second ride.
Right. I have an interesting story. We'd go down there underground, and we walked by the wardrobe department one day, getting ready to go do the parade, and the wardrobe department had the door cracked, and then I saw Winnie the Pooh, and I always thought the guy was real until I saw him put his head on. And I said, "Oh man, it's not real, man. He's a person in a costume."
Oh man!
Oh, that really opened my eyes back then.
I've been living a lie.
That's right.
So was that as traumatizing as learning about Santa Claus?
Yeah. But if you ever get a chance to go back to Disney in Orlando, take the tour underground.
I've heard it's quite remarkable.
It's very remarkable. It's an all-day thing, and I think it costs about $100, maybe $200 now. But it's an all-day event. They'll serve you breakfast, lunch, and they'll take you under everything under there, under the Cinderella Castle, under the whole operations.
One thing about Disney, nothing's free.
That's right. That's right.
And nothing's underpriced either.
No.
You buy a Coke there and it's like $15, but you get a cup.
That's right. Remember, before Disney broke ground, they had a little prototype on the side of the highway on I-4, and it had a model of what it was going to look like. It was pretty interesting.
I bet.
I was there during the construction of it. In the appliance field that I'm still in. I went there a couple times to do some service repair work on window air conditioners, and I remember one time I went to this trailer, and they couldn't understand why I kept tripping the breakers. And I said, "Well, you got them on the same circuit." Overloading the circuit, I'm thinking, man, these guys are building Disney.
They don't know this. That's scary.
Yeah, but that was quite interesting.
Did you go on rides at that time when you were in the parades? Did you go on rides?
Sure. We had full access passes.
Great.
It was cool.
I bet the crowds weren't bad then, were they?
No, they weren't. No, you could get right on, no waiting. It was pretty interesting.
Have you been back in your, let's say in the last 20 years, you've been back?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. I go back to Orlando probably once every 2 years. Check it out.
But I mean to Disneyland.
Disney, huh?
Or Disney World, isn't it?
Disney
really?
World.
Disney World?
Disney World.
And have you taken kids there?
Taken, my daughter and to my girlfriend a couple of years ago. And we didn't actually make it in the park. They were closed that day for some private function or something.
Man.
But we went to the Wilderness Lounge and Lodge, and we saw a show and dinner. It's pretty cool.
So you were there in Orlando until you were how old?
I was about 17.
And was it in those years that you developed your musical interests?
Musical interest developed back when I was 7.
Uh,
And got a drum set and started playing. I was in a private school, Catholic school, and I was in the All-Star Catholic Band, and didn't know how to read music. Not at all, just like drumline. I would listen to the second chair. I copy what he did. The instructor never called me out, never threw his baton at me. It was pretty interesting.
so you learn by natural rhythm? you might
Natural
say?
rhythm and the gift that I've been blessed with, and continue to play music today.
So you started when you were very young, and then you got a little experience at Disney World early on. But outside of that, what were you doing? Were you in a band at 17?
No, I was. Let's see, lost my mother at 17. I went back to Orlando, and then at about at the age of 20, I picked up a paper, and I said, man, I got to get a career. I got to do something. And I learned, went to a trade school to learn appliance repair. And then after that, I went to work for Sears and started my now 45-year career.
I like how they say today that Sears was the Amazon of last century. Because it was the first one to have mail order where you could order things brought to your home, and substantial things. You could even order a house.
Yeah, you could order a house. They had kits. You put together house kits. They probably got some here in Brownsville, I'm sure, in the old neighborhoods and stuff. I can imagine. I
remember getting it as a kid. I remember getting the Sears catalog, before Christmas, in October, and I'd be just going through it carefully. The toy section, they had a toy section in the catalog, and I'd go through it and dream about what Santa might bring me.
There you go.
Cool. And now, but what did you do for Sears?
At that time, I was cleaning window air conditioners, servicing window air conditioners. That's how I went to Disney and had to look on a couple of air conditioners, and that's where I started. And after trade school, like I said, my first job was with Sears. And
what was their brand of air conditioner? The Sears brand? Kenmore. That's right, Kenmore. And of course those took off. That was a whole movement when those became available. They were in every house that could afford one.
Right.
My mother had one, and this was back in the 60s, I remember, and she would only turn it on at night, and because she says it's too expensive. She'd run it at night, but in the daytime it was just fans all over the house. And then when it got to be the dog days of summer, sometimes we could convince her to turn on that window unit at maybe she wouldn't turn on before noon. She'd say, well, we can make it till noon without that thing on. And then she'd shut off half the house so that you just cool, 2 rooms. So, do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, if you worked at Sears, you got them cheap.
Yeah, well, employee discount, but our house, we luckily had central air and heat, so we didn't have to deal with the window ACs. but it was a good experience, beginning experience.
But you know what? A lot of people now are going away from central back to, window.
Right.
Or at least the what do they call them, the split system. Split system, because, well, even in my house, we can like my mother did. We can do 2 rooms. The others don't need to be cooled all the time. Nobody's there, and with the rates going where they are, it's
right.
You got to do what you got to do. So you were essentially an orphan at 17.
At 17, absolutely. Yep.
And then, where did you go from there? You were dealing with you were in Sears, and then you were also on the side. I'm sure you were doing your music, your drums, right? But
no, I took a break for about 15 years. I just worked in the appliance industry, and after Sears, I went to a couple of mom and pop places to do some repairs. But I took a break for 15 years after my mother passed away, and didn't play music at all.
Really?
And years later, I got that passion rekindled and started playing again.
But what happened? What was the moment that made you say, I'm going to get back to this?
Well, I was married at the time in Austin, Texas, and my wife and I were going through some trials and stuff. And I said to myself, well, let's try going to a church. And she had a church of mine, I had a church of mine. We didn't tell each other which church it was. I grew up Catholic. And we pulled into the parking lot, and she pulls out a business card and hands it to me. It was the same church. It was a Christian church. So we walk inside this church, and I heard a band play. As soon as I walked inside that church and heard the band play, something in my heart said, this is where it's going to happen, and this is what you're going to do. And at that time, there were 300 people in attendance at that church. 6 years later, the church grew to over 7,000.
Oh, my God. So it's a mega church.
A mega church. And then that's when I started playing in the band. And when I started playing in the band, I told the director, I said, hey, I got this passion. I want to play music. He said, all right, what do you play? I said, drums. We got drum set? No. When was the last time you played? It's 15 years ago. He goes, wow. He goes, well, come to practice. I couldn't keep beat with a tambourine. So then they put me on a drum pad. So I was playing the drum pad. So after service, I would tell my family, hey, did you hear me? They go, no, we can't hear you at all. So I asked the director, I go, hey, how come people can't hear me? He goes, we don't have you in the mix. I said, well, why don't you have me in the mix? He goes, we want to see your stature. We want to see your integrity. We want to see your passion. So they saw it, and they had another drummer there. They had two drummers, two drum sets. One had to leave. So he said, Dan, go get a drum set. So I did. Got a 5-piece kit. The other guy had a double monster kit. So I put it up next to his, and I said to myself, that looks crazy. I can't perform next to this guy. But then got that thing in my head, said, hey, you're blessed with this. Go for it. So we did it. And it was great. It was wonderful.
And so they made you buy your own drums?
Yeah, I bought my own drums. Yeah.
But it's a mega church. They have money.
They had money. Well, not at that point. At that time, it was like still the 300.
Oh, I see.
But then it grew over that.
Then it grew with it. Okay.
But yeah.
And then, so you were there obviously a long time. Were you there till it grew that big?
Yeah, I was there for about 10 years in the church.
So, and then you came back to Brownsville then?
And then, let's see here, to speed up a little bit. In 2011, my wife passed away.
Oh, sorry.
And I didn't really know in what direction I was going. I was still appliance repair technician, still playing music. And then I got laid off from the company I'm working for. So I said, wow, what do I do now? And then they had an opportunity to become a tech support over the phone. And I asked them, I said, well, does it matter where I live? No, you work on the internet. You can live anywhere and anywhere. I said, So I came down to Brownsville for a funeral. One of my family members' son passed away, and I met a girl. So here I am.
So here you are. The drummer gets the girl. You must have cut your rent in half at least if you moved from Austin to here.
Well, no, I have a home in Austin. I was still paying on the home and renting here, so I had the pleasures of two homes.
So do you still have your house in Austin?
Yes, I do.
Oh my goodness!
My daughter lives there with her husband and my 3 grandkids. They took it over for me, so it's all theirs. So, here I am in Brownsville.
Well, it's great that you held on to it all these years.
Oh yeah.
What part of Austin is it in?
Just by the airport.
Okay.
By the Circuit of the Americas racetrack out there.
You're out there close to Elon Musk's new building, I guess.
Yeah.
I drove by that recently. Man, that thing is a mile long.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I was driving by on that highway where you can drive 85 miles an hour. I-130, I think is the name of it. It's the road number, and I clocked it. I said, God, that building is a mile long. It's incredible.
Right.
It's huge. And then I was out at over here the other day at SpaceX, and I'd been out there in a year, and that too is ballooned into something far beyond anything I ever expected around here. Well, let's talk about modern Brownsville and your life, and I'm guessing that you are pleased with the renaissance in the music scene here.
Yes, I am. Before COVID hit, I was playing at the Island, and I played a couple of times at Rancho Viejo.
Mm-hmm.
And then COVID hit, and everything stopped for a little while. And then I got, let's see what happened. And then people started playing again.
Mm-hmm.
And I played with a few guys at Cobblehead, some sit-ins, some jam sessions and stuff. But I still had, and I've always had a vision to play for thousands of people, by the way. And then I got back playing at the Holiday Inn Resort in South Padre every Sunday. Had a residency for 18 months. It was great. And then I had my eye on the Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that they had a good future ahead, as you know, and they're going to be reopening up a new venue there in March 2023. But going back to the Pearl, I went there and I talked to management, left business card, never heard from nobody. And I knew I would play there. I just had a feeling. And I went there one day, walked the property, said a prayer, asked for faith, and had a vision that I'd be playing the bongos by the pool. So I get on the phone. It was July 10th. It was a Tuesday. Talk with the general manager, and he's heard of me. I introduced myself. He goes, I've heard of you, man. You do pretty good. I said, yeah. I said, well, I'm interested in playing there. He goes, well, what's your schedule like? I said, Tuesdays and Saturdays. He said, well, this was July 10th on Tuesday. He goes, what are you doing tonight? I'm playing there.
What are you doing tonight?
I go, I'm playing there. He goes, all right. He goes, what time? I said, you tell me. 6 to 8. All right, let's do it. I said, I'm going to get there at 3. He goes, why are you getting here so early? So I got to set up my stuff, man. I got to set up a performance. He goes, okay. So I got there, set up, did my show. Whenever I do a show, and I call it a show because I consider myself an entertainer musician, and the first 30 minutes I play gospel music, uplifting, inspirational music. So anyways, the show went well, and he called me the next day, and he said, hey, Dan, you did a great job, man. He goes, can you play tonight? I said, no, sir, I can Tuesdays and Saturdays. Well, let's do it. So, all right. So how long is this going to go for? He goes, till the first week of September. So I locked into a residency there. So I said, all right, the vision came true. So I said, if you have any concern of my music or my presentation or my program, please tell me. He goes, well, we got one concern. And I said, oh, boy, here we go. Thought he was going to talk about the gospel music. But he goes, can you play an extra hour? I said, certainly. So I did the extra hour. And it went for 2.5 months. So now they're presently renovating to become Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. And,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in 2023, it's going to be opening up. They're under renovation right now. They haven't started the programming yet, but I feel very confident I'm going to be the bongo guy by the pool.
Is it truly connected to Jimmy Buffett?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a personal investor in this idea, or they use his name, license his name or something?
I think they licensed it.
And so are you now going to have to play the Jimmy Buffett kind of music?
Well, interesting you should say that. I did play the Margaritaville in San Antonio on the River Walk. They do require you to play so many Buffett songs during your sets. There's a lot of restrictions. You got to have a contract with them. You got to do a lot of things with them. So I would assume that this may be the same. And yeah, you got.
What do you call that genre of music? I just call it Jimmy Buffett music, but I'm sure there's a more
island music.
Island music.
Island life. Yeah.
Island life music. Hush puppies. Got your hush puppies on.
Yeah. And word has it Mr. Buffett's supposed to be here for the grand opening. So we'll see what happens. And I have a vision again that I'm going to be playing with Jimmy
Buffett
by the pool. So.
Well, when you say that you're playing there, do you play solo?
Solo.
And you'd use some sort of track, or you
absolutely.
What do
I
you
use
do?
Spotify.
Okay.
And I read the crowd, kind of see what they like.
Yeah.
And then I play the music. And I've got the congas, the bongos, the timbales. And my big presentation, I got a nice system. I got lights, got fog, got the whole 9 yards. But the icing to my show is, let's say I'm playing Carlos Santana. And I say, hey, who wants to come up and play the bongos with me? people drinking, and they'd say, "Let me give it a try."
I'll try it, yeah.
So they get up there and they start playing. The interaction is what sells the
Makes
show.
it work. Yeah.
It really takes it up because
It's like karaoke for drums.
right, because you're not going to see a band play. You're going to see a band play in an area, and they'll invite somebody that the community knows, or they'll invite somebody that they know. They never will invite anybody they don't know for one or two reasons. One, they're going to embarrass the band, or two, they're going to be better than the band. And I don't care either way. And I've had some phenomenal
Some really wonderful
musicians come up. And I've had a lot of, let's see, what was it, artistic children come up. And they really get into the music.
That's wonderful.
And I bless them when they're done. I give them tip money out of the jar, or give them a cowbell or something.
That's wonderful.
It's very, very interactive. I get a lot of compliments on how I include people in.
Have you ever had anybody come to play who's also a professional? I mean,
Yes.
And very good at what they do.
Absolutely. I had this one gentleman last year come up. He said, "I got some flutes." I said, "All right." He says, "They're wood flutes." And I said, "Okay." So he unravels them out of his bag. And he said, "Can I adjust your system?" I said, "Sure." So he's tweaking stuff and made it sound really nice. And he said, "Turn off your music. Let's play some music." I said, "All right." So he said, "Give me a beat." So I did. And he is phenomenal. His name is Rev. I don't know his last name, but he plays in the festival circuit with a guitar player. And it's phenomenal.
But what kind of music did he play?
Indian type of flute kind of music. It was really cool.
I remember once years ago when I was down in San Miguel de Allende, and there was a live band playing there at Mamma Mia's restaurant, which is an open air restaurant, but they were played, I guess, what I would call flute music. They were from Peru, a Peruvian flute band, and they played, that sort of music that you would hear in Peru. I'd never heard it before, especially live, and I was just mesmerized by it. It's really interesting to hear, different types of music on different types of instruments from around the world that you may. Now you're a musical guy, so I'm sure there's very little that you haven't heard. But for me, I've run into things that the first time I've heard it, I've been kind of, blown away by the experience because it was absolutely unique in my life. I remember, like the first time I heard reggae, it was like that. I went, what is this? This is awesome.
Sure. One thing that I like to do when I'm performing is I like to, of course, meet with the people, but I ask them what ethnicity they are. And then, like this past Sunday, they were from India. And I said, give me an artist name. And the wife said, "Oh, you can't play that here." And I said, "Well, why not? They're not going to like it." And I said, "Well, I don't care if they like it. I'm doing it for you." I said, "What song did you dance at your wedding to?" And the guy told me. He said, "You got the song?" I said, "Yeah." So good. Cued the song. They started dancing, relived their dance at their wedding in their native song. So it was really cool.
Well, your expertise with technology allows you to do things you couldn't have done 20 years ago, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It allows you to be a one-man band, so to speak.
There you go.
In a very classy way.
Yeah. All different styles.
And that's kudos to you because a lot of older people won't bother to learn new tech.
Right.
And do you think it's your background in technology that helped you be brave?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you worked with technology early in life and you went through some evolutions within that, and then you work in right now, your other job.
Right. Tech support definitely helps me.
What do you do on tech support? What's your typical call?
Typical call could be, let's say, guy has a refrigerator. Just bought it.
Okay.
$2,000. So he gets it home and lights are on, but it doesn't cool. So I don't know what's going on with this thing. I ask him, what does it say on the display? OFF, OFF. I said, well, sir, it's in demo mode. He goes, how do you get it out of demo mode? 2 buttons on the left hand of the dispenser, hold them in for 3 seconds, boom, it comes on. Hey, wow, it's working. Or let's say they have a dishwasher. It's not draining. I don't know what's wrong with this thing. I want to take it back. And I ask him, well, did you install any garbage disposals in your kitchen? Yeah, we got a new garbage disposal. Well, the drain hose connected to the side probably didn't knock the knockout plug out. Oh, yeah, you're right. Or a TV, no volume, has a picture. Just really on TVs, you can, or any electronical, you can unplug it for 3 minutes. It resets the computer. You plug it back in, boom, you got sound. You got a picture.
I've heard that about the computer tech guys. They said the number one problem is the computer's not on. It's not plugged in.
Yeah. So whenever I do that, and I save the company money from sending somebody out.
Sure.
And everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. And especially the person you solve the problem for, because it's something simple.
Right. And I talk to people all over the place. I've talked to them, Hawaii, Canada, New York, Florida, anywhere.
What do they call that? I know in the tech they say it's an ID10 problem or something like that. It's a short term for idiot.
Well,
we got an ID10 problem here.
Could be. But it's really good, and I work from home, so we're on the internet. So
I tell you, it is amazing what the internet has done to various professions. I might say, like I had 2 of my children home for Christmas, and they came. Both of them work kind of like you do. They work online. They can work from anywhere. So they came home like a week before Christmas and stayed a week after Christmas because they could work from my house. They just needed to open their computer. They needed a room where it was quiet.
Right.
But it used to be they could only come home for 3 days, had to get back to work. But now they can work from anywhere, so they can take 2 weeks to come home.
Yeah, I got about 2 more years and a couple of months I can fully retire. And I'm really thinking about the idea of getting an RV and traveling up the coast, head towards Florida, work during the day, play music at night. Want to go down to the Keys. I want to go down there and play down there at a couple of places. But you never know what Margaritaville is going to offer me and what I'm going to offer them. I do believe it's going to be a life-changing time in March. I do believe.
This March you're going to start?
This March.
Oh, well, Gabriel, we'll have to get out there.
Absolutely. Come and be my guest. I'll give you a front row seats at the pool. And
I just need to play the bongos.
Yeah.
Have you ever played steel drums?
No. It don't look that hard, but
they have an interesting sound to them.
Yeah, we got a guy that plays there during the brunch there at the Holiday Inn, and on Sundays he does the steel band. But I was thinking about buying some just to see. When I went on vacation to Jamaica, and the locals were going to sell me one, it was like $1,500, and he said, "Just give me $1,500, I'll meet you at the boat." Yeah, right. I didn't fall for that.
That's good. I'm kind of surprised it's that expensive.
Well, yeah,
but I guess they are steel after all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, or is that just a name? Are they really steel?
Yeah,
they're really steel. It's very. I used to be. I spent some time in Africa years ago, and it was interesting how the reggae influence had. The Caribbean culture was created obviously by the slave culture that was, where slaves were taken to the Caribbean, and that culture was created by African culture, repositioned in the world, you might say,
right,
and evolved in its own right. But then it was interesting how it kind of found its way back to Africa, and so the reggae music of the Caribbean influenced, the newer music in Africa. It's interesting to see that.
Yeah,
it's a lot of Bob Marley fans, and the Bob Marley genre of reggae became extremely popular, especially in Nigeria, where I was.
Cool.
The other question I had for you is, since you took to music early, and very early in life, you developed an interest in drums that came out of your soul, I suppose. What do you say to kids who want to, if you run into a kid that's really interested in drums and or any musical form, what do you say to them about their passion to encourage them?
Oh yeah, I encourage them to just jump on it and go for it, and just see where you're gonna go. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. I had this one experience in Austin, Texas. This is about 15 years ago, maybe longer. Anyways, I went to a jam at Liberty Lunch, and I was going to play drums, and these two little guys walk in with guitars. They were bigger than them. And somebody says, anybody want to play with these two boys? Nobody raised their hand. I raised my hand. I said, I'll play with them. And so they set up, and they start. The guy leans around, and he goes, do you know any Elmore James, sir? I said, yeah, I did. He goes, count us off. I said, okay. So I did, and we excellent blues. Mm-hmm. These boys, they're the Peterson brothers. Mm-hmm. And they've hit it big. They've opened up for B.B. King when he was live. Lonely Boys.
My goodness.
They got their own tour. They're doing fabulous. But there was a time when they were going to do an event in Bastrop, Texas, and they wanted me to play the drums. So a couple of weeks before the show, and this was when they were just starting out, their mother called me and said, hey, we got this another drummer coming back to town, and he wants to play with the boys, same age. And I said, well, that's cool. She goes, but I want to pay you for your time. Mm-hmm. I said, no, ma'am. I said, put the money back to the boys. Mm-hmm. I said, they're going to do something in their life. I know they are. And they're professionals today.
Wow.
So I definitely encourage kids, if I'm playing an instrument and they like it,
yeah,
it's a hand percussion shaker, I'll give it to them. I'll say, here, take this. And I started off with a shaker when I was at that church. And I have a bunch of shakers. I give it to people. I tell them the story, how I started. And I give them the shaker. That's when you're in your car driving home, shake that shaker. Oh, wow. Definitely encourage them.
So you're teaching them to play and love rhythm early and find ways of expressing that rhythm.
Exactly.
Through instruments.
Exactly. And I tell them when they come out and play the bongos, I say, close your eyes. Tap the drum once over there. But close your eyes, and whatever you feel in your heart, play on that instrument. Mm-hmm. Let the instrument give a message to whoever's listening. And they'll start doing 3 times, 2 times, whatever. And they develop their own pattern. Mm-hmm. And they open up their eyes and they go, man, that was so cool. And I said, cool. I said, that's what it's all about.
I remember a guy I knew in high school. Well, I actually knew him before high school, but he was always in trouble for drumming on the desk. Mm-hmm. You know, he's always rapping, picking out tunes or rhythms on the desk. The teachers were always on to him about not doing that. So it was no surprise that he became a drummer.
There you go.
I mean, not a professional drummer, but when he got up to high school, but it was in him. It was just in his soul. He had to drum.
Right. When I see people at venues tapping on the table like you just did, I say, hey, you could play the drums, man. You could play the bongo. You're doing it right there. Come on up. And if they don't want to come up, my bongos are on rollers. I'll roll it up to their table. And I have a wireless microphone. And I say, come on, guy, we've got to hear you. I put them on the spot, and they start playing. It's amazing.
So yeah, let me, if I may, have a little question for you.
Okay,
but,
Gabriel.
But I really like that what he said about the salt shakers. Well, are these salt shakers or
no? They're little eggs.
But for some reason, I almost see him branding his stage name through these shakers that he gives away as a reminder, kind of like as a souvenir, as part of his act. Hey, you know what? Here's my number's listed on this shaker in case you ever want to, get your name out there and stuff like that. I just love that idea. But also, I did want to ask you. What is your stage name, by the way? Do you go by your personal name, or is there a name that you're trying to brand yourself when you're on stage?
Absolutely, the Groove Man.
The Groove Man.
The Groove Man.
Oh, there we go, the Groove Man.
The Groove Man.
Sweet.
Excellent.
Yeah, I got hats with the Groove Man on it. I got everything with the Groove. And I hand them out sometimes.
So you have merch.
Yeah.
As the kids say.
Koozies and stuff that have my name and stuff on there. Yeah.
So, one last question. If you could have played with any band in history, like big rock band, whatever, well, what would be the dream band for you to play for thousands in front of?
Absolutely. Carlos Santana, I would say. I actually sent him an email about 15 years ago. And I sent him an email. And in the email, I said that I wanted to audition. And gave a little bit of my history. And then the closing line, I said, I'm not a world-renowned percussionist, but I have the passion to become one. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I got a email back from his manager. I didn't get an automated reply out of the office, an actual email saying, Mr. Santana is very busy in Vegas right now with his residency. We don't have time for an audition. in the event we do need somebody, we will keep your name. So you never know.
You never know. I tell my students all the time that they should never preclude that a no awaits them, that they should ask.
Absolutely.
There's no harm in asking, and you never know what magic might come of it.
That's true. Absolutely true. And but he's the top musician. I do have one more. It's Stevie Wonder. I want to play with Stevie Wonder. I was working the venue in Austin at Dakota Racetrack, and he was going to do a show. So I got in touch with my printer, and I said, hey, man, I need a business card in Braille. Just one. I don't care what it costs. Just one in Braille. Got 24 hours.
What a great idea.
He goes, man, I can't do it, man. I go, it's too short of a notice. I go, okay. So I did get on the soundboard, met with this engineer, and he was going to take me backstage to meet Stevie, but we got caught by the security. But Stevie Wonder has two percussionists, from what I understand, two young gentlemen, and they're from Brownsville. And I said, man, if those young guys can do it, I just got to get that business card in Braille.
What a great idea.
Because you never know, right?
It's very smart.
You hand somebody a card in Braille that they're blind, they're going to be impressed. They're going to be touched. Not impressed, but they're going to be touched.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right that you would go to the trouble and be that empathetic.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Groove Man.
Right on. Come out to Margaritaville.
Okay.
Check me out.
Well, I didn't know that about the Pearl. I didn't know they were renovating and they're going to be Margaritaville. It's a beautiful facility. I've been there many times, so I look forward to going and seeing you there.
Absolutely. Be my guest.
Okay, buddy.
Thanks for watching this BSPA video. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you like what you see. And if you really like what you see, go ahead and go to our website, brosoperformingarts.org, and smash the donate button. And then we'll really like you too.